Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. We're going to do just a quick news podcast. There's a lot going on today, so I, I value your time as much as I value my own. But anyway, still working on a project, kind of doing the whole living thin kind of idea of how do people can better survive the kind of crazy stuff that's coming up in the world today. But anyway, again, thank you for stopping by Roots and Reason. Be sure to like, subscribe. Certainly, just at least like, even if you don't subscribe. Bump me up in the algorithm. But hey, holy cow, there's a lot going on out there today. Um, I've been pretty busy lately. I didn't expect, like I said, I've been working on kind of this financial product and I have a guest lined up. It's going to be the 23rd, which is a Monday. And I believe it's going to be at noon Eastern, 1 Central. Excuse me, 1 Eastern, noon Central. I'll have to check the schedule on that. But anyway, I'm going to have Melody Wright. She's a huge name in the real estate macro space. This woman swims in data. Why is it important to pay attention to things like housing? For most of us, it's the largest kind of gathering of our wealth. We put in the equity of our homes and things. Um, it's usually the biggest investment the average American has. So it's obviously a very important thing to kind of pay attention to. But anyway, she will be here Monday. We're going to have a discussion about that, not this Monday, but the following. Um, I have one or two other folks that I'm trying to get lined up. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of the people that are in the fin space that are like really high level, I mean, I think Melanie's even been on like MSNBC Business and Fox Business and stuff. So it's my first really big name, so I'm pretty excited about that. Um, a lot of the people in the fin space, though, especially the ones that get to appear in the news, uh, they don't want to talk to a bum like me. There's a few out there. I'm working on it, guys. But anyway, let's get to the news. And holy shit, man, there's all kind of crazy stuff going on. Okay, as we know, today is what is it? The No Kings thing. Who created this? And I'm starting to see some evidence out here that this whole gig with the protest stuff, man, it's a lot less grassroots and it's a lot more well funded. And I think the attorney general is actually looking into some of this. Um, it's just not passing the smell test, man. They find vehicles that they're handing out literally boxes of prepaid, armored masks and shit like this, and pre-made signs, and it's all the cutout typical people. Who's funding all this bullshit? Now, don't get me wrong. There's absolutely some grassroots people out there that genuinely are into this sort of a thing, but not the bulk of it. I'm sorry. I'm calling bullshit here, people. It's just who comes with that name? It's literally, this is like some, you couldn't write fiction that bad. I mean, there was someone, the quote that said, the difference between fiction and nonfiction is fiction has to at least make sense for people to believe it. Um, but we see how bad the writing in Hollywood is. No kings. Who comes up with that bullshit? But anyway, let, let's go take a look. Uh, let's go check out the Twitterverse and Twitter patter and the tubes of the glory of the internet. What do we got out there these days? Let's go check it out. Right on. Okay, and before I get to Thomas Massey, because this is the other thing that's really big here. Okay, now to the credit of some of this stuff. Honestly, I've been watching Agenda Free TV today, which is this here. No, actually, this is just a new Kings kind of thing. Um, yeah, it is a little bit ironic that No King was done a lot of support of the Democratic Party, who never really democratically They kind of put their own little person up there. No one got to vote. No one had a say so. And then, of course, here's the other thing in the news that happened this morning. Apparently, we got this lunatic out there. And I didn't realize this. He's a former appointee of Tim Walz, and he shot the one woman who, I guess, voted against funding illegals. So, not doing real good for their image out there. Let's call it how we see it. Um, Honestly, though, a lot of the protest stuff that I've seen, I got no problem with that. If you guys want to sit out there in the hot sun, blister, and wave a Mexican flag, I did see some American flags today, though. So kudos on them. They're figuring it out. They're getting their shit together. They're starting to realize, oh my God, we can't just be out here waving the Mexican flag. There we go. There's an American flag. Can you believe it? Good on them. Okay, now they're calling out 8647. Okay. Well, they got a flag, but they want to assassinate our president. Go figure. Anyway, tragic meltdown. What's going on? Interesting though. I haven't watched much of the parade. I caught little pieces of it. Um, yeah, I guess Trump wants to be more like what? Russia and Red Square, North Korea. I don't know. Then on the other hand, I'm not going to knock it either. Personally, maybe that's something that we do need in this country is honestly just a little bit more patriotism, if you will. I don't know. It's the one thing I notice about the protest of people on the left. They really hate this country. I don't get it. They they can't stand it. They hate the president. They hate the rule of law. They just open borders. They want anarchy. And I don't understand it. Maybe we need to be doing better with our kids and teaching them the values of things like Western civilization or something. I don't know. I mean, America has a lot of flaws in the world. Nobody will deny that. But we've also done a lot of good in the world too. And we've certainly done a lot of good for our people here. And there's a reason why people come from all over the world that want to be Americans. And I think that's one of the issues that people have. It's like nobody's got an issue with Mexicans. They just don't want to have illegal Mexicans. Like, hey, go through the process the rest of us do. And welcome on. Welcome to America. And in the past, I had a friend of mine, he's first generation immigrant. And he pointed out, what if it's my people? And I think, again, I might have mentioned this prior. The difference of where I grew up when I was young in a multi ethnic neighborhood and stuff, all the people that came from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Mexico, Puerto Rico, they wanted to be Americans. That was their whole goal. They risked their lives to come to this country through oppressive regimes throughout Europe and Asia and everywhere else. They wanted more than anything in the whole world just to have a chance to be an American. And yet, when I see these protests, it's mostly spoiled, liberal, well to do folks that never really had to have a pain in their life, man. They've literally been handed everything. They go to the best schools, best college. Their minds are polluted from just, I don't know. It's just, we need to change that. But again, for whatever it's worth, now it's still early in the day, but honestly, a lot of what I've seen today is peaceful protest. So hey, I'll give it to them. And look at this. You want to stand out there, wave signs and flags? God bless you, man. That's the American way. You go do it. I'm not real, clean up on aisle 47. I'll laugh at that. That's funny shit. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Um, Speak your mind. This is a freedom that we all have. Um, I guess I just take a departure when I start seeing people chuck Molotov cocktails, burn shit down, cars in streets, or this kind of shit. Well, hey, Marine Corps veteran, impeach Trump. No kings. Okay. God bless you. You do you, brother. Anyway, real quick, I want to give a quick shout out. Started watching this. This guy's actually doing some pretty good stuff. He's got his own little channel. It's called Agenda Free TV. Um, he's a squirrely little fucker, but I like him because he's a little bit boomerish, but he's handling the tech pretty good. And he does a lot of live coverage, and of course, today's really busy, and we're watching his stuff kind of just bounce around. But he's got some good info. He does connect to some decent people. Um, so I'm glad to see that. Anyway, let's go back to my Twitter. Let's see what we got here. Of course, the other big news is Israel struck Iran. So let me go ahead and show my ugly mug because this is something that I've been paying attention. Honestly, Iran is what got me kind of into politics to begin with. I was a little kid, 1979. I remember watching it on TV, all the adults glued to the screen and watching American hostages blindfolded, marched out there in the front of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. And I certainly didn't understand anything at the age I was, but I knew it was really, really important. And it was day after day after day, same shit. Everybody's wired it. So I knew something's up. I didn't fully comprehend what was going on, but that's where it started my interest. It's like, okay, there's some of the stuff that's going on this TV that seemed to have a big impact on all the adults. That's all they talked about. Oh my God. Well, here we are all these many, many years later. And keep in mind, remember General Wesley Clark had pointed out um, the U.S., under the premise of kind of a neoconservative movement that was entrenched in the Bush Jr. White House, wanted to strike 7 countries in 5 years. One of those countries, the top dog, the big daddy, the big enchilada, is Iran. And it's always been on our list, and it's always been kind of, we've treated Iran very much similar since 1979. We haven't altered our opinion. It's one of the problems that I have with a lot of more American foreign policy is it's like we're still living in the past. We haven't realized the world's evolving and changing, and people treat Russia as though the Soviet Union just fell. Well, lots went on in the Soviet Union. You can like Putin or not, but the man's taken his country in a different direction and he's bringing it back from the ashes. Personally, what I think honestly going on here, if you notice these strikes that took place, they almost mimic what the Ukrainians did to the Russians. The top of these semi trucks opened up and they're full of drones. And they have operatives, Mossad's even, they're proud of it, man. They put it out all over the internet. They're like cock in the hen house, man. These people are proud of what they did, just like the pager shit. And the one fucking thing about the Israelis that are really twisted is they're really big in assassinations. They just fucking kill leaders of other countries. Um, they go straight to the top. Now there might be an argument there. I'd love to have a debate with somebody over the effectiveness of that, but they've done it throughout their whole history. And it's a decapitation strategy. If you listen to General Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, or even the likes of Ray McGovern and Larry Johnson, there's a lot of folks out there, former military, that talk about this. Um, they've did it to Hezbollah. They've done it to Hamas. They did it to the PLO. Remember Yasser Arafat? I think they poisoned him. Assassination is definitely high on the order of uh, Israeli Mossad. And they did it again. And not only did they go after, the premise that they're using is they're going after Iran's nuclear sites. They did attack that, but apparently some of the follow up news out there is they didn't really scratch the surface. Iran has expected this. They've built stuff literally under mountains. It would take literally like a nuclear level device to be able to damage some of these facilities. They're literally built inside mountains. So airstrikes, even with bunker busters, not even scratching the surface of this stuff. They did certainly knock out some anti-air stuff. They absolutely did some damage. They've done a follow-up strike just about an hour or so ago. Attacked an oil, I think, storage facility outside of Tehran, and it's ablaze. Holy cow! It's some fuel depot, large depot, and it's a mess. Um, Israel also had a fuel depot and oil refinery struck up in Haifa, and it's also on flame, and it's a mess. Interesting, a couple of things that have happened is, we were told that Iran, according to Israel and Trump administration, we've done significant damage to their ability to shoot down Israeli airstrikes and stuff. We've diminished their capacity, I think was one of the phrases I heard. Well, apparently not, because I've already seen waves, like we're on the fifth wave now. And, keep in mind, the Iranian strategy to this is they don't have a huge air force. They got crap for a navy. The one thing they have invested a lot of technology in fact, they even USA, America, where they get some of this technology, us. They downed one of our Predator drones like what, 10, 12 years ago and reverse engineered the thing. And now they're selling Iranian drones to even the Russians, for Pete's sakes. So they're taking very low cost devices. I mean, they're sending these large drones, probably 10, 20, $30,000, slap a small weapons charge on it, like a shaped charge or 155 millimeter shell type thing, and just fly thousands of them at a time. The Israelis can't shoot them all down. They're getting overwhelmed. And that's what they're saying. We're seeing a lot of these drone flights that come in. Um, they're taking them out. Absolutely. Now, keep in mind, Israel's the most defended airspace on planet Earth, period, full stop. In addition to Israel, the Iron Dome, they have another missile system. I forget what the name, not to mention the U.S. Patriot system. There are GS Navy ships off there. There are aircraft flying in Jordanian airspace and in the Mediterranean Navy. All of these things working to shoot down all of these drones and stuff. And according to OSINT earlier today, there was still like 20, 30 strikes in the last hit. So, I mean, some of them, yeah, they damaged the missile. It still hits the ground. A lot of them still explode. Um, and a couple of them, they follow it up, at the same time trying to coordinate with some of these more, you can call them hypersonic, but um, high speed, sophisticated missiles. They're ballistic ground to ground missiles. Um, Not cheap shit. And they're getting through. And again, according to OSINT, there was something like 20, 30 strikes. Um, Enough to make basically a lot of the Israeli government flee. They had to go elsewhere to kind of conduct government business. Of course, then again, I think the same thing happened to the Iranians. But again, the Israelis ain't no slouch, especially with U.S. assistance. So it's full out war right now. Now, there's a couple consequences of this stuff. If Iran can kind of keep up the pace that it's going at, is Israel going to be able to keep up the pace of these anti ballistic and anti drone type missile systems? They're not cheap. I mean, you've heard on the news that, the reason we're not getting any more to Ukraine, because there ain't that many left. They're expensive as hell, cost a shit ton of money, and they take time to build these things. And we're tapped out. We told the Ukrainians, no mas, pal. We're done. We can't give you any more. Now, of course, we're a little bit closer to Israel. Israel gets whatever the hell it wants. I mean, it's literally like a third party in our government almost. Um, so they get whatever they want. How long can they keep up that tempo and pace? And what happens if they lose out and all of a sudden there's not enough missiles to be able to defend it, and the people started getting pounded. Keep in mind, last week, I forget what the scenario was, but Bibi came close to getting ousted from office. So this is high pressure stuff, and there's even low rumor talk, and by God, I hope it's just rumors that is Israel will consider using a nuclear weapon against Iran. If that happens, it's game over. Israel's not going to exist. The world will turn on it. Nobody will stand for it. The United States is going to walk away. Nobody's going to stand for anybody using a nuke. In fact, I don't even think that Iran is likely to strike the Dimona plant, which is their nuclear plant in Israel, just in case of fallout in the area. Just not even using a nuclear weapon, but the effects of hitting a nuclear power plant, how devastating that would be for the region, to make portions of Israel uninhabitable. Uh, the world would turn against it. You can see there's the range of Iranian missiles, and it's a pretty good long way. Um, and again, I'd like to draw your attention once again. Keep in mind what Israel just pulled off in Iran. They did the same thing that Ukraine did in Russia. And as some of the people along military analysts and stuff are pointing out, is um, there seems to be a lot of overlap there. So apparently, Mossad, a lot of where this is getting also directed at is the UK, MI6 intelligence. Of course, the United States intelligence industry or apparatus would absolutely know about this stuff. Um, but we could see where Mossad, the SBU, which is the Ukrainian Secret Service stuff, in connection with MI6, because they're almost identical operations. Trucks that opened up, operatives inside the host country. In this case, it was Russia at first, 3 weeks ago, and then yesterday in Iran. There's no defense against it. There's a truck literally like a quarter mile away, and they're flying these small little shape charge drones, suicide drones. There's no defense for that. You're already under the defensive capabilities of whatever. So they got in. They pulled it off, man. I ain't gonna lie. It was a brilliant operation. But they tipped the hand because now we get to see some of the connections. MI6, Mossad, SBU. How much is the United States CIA involved? Don't know. Certainly they had some hand in it, but it seems minimal at the moment. So, hey, we got a lot of that going on. Israel's a mess. Oh, Blondie Mania. Okay. Let me go real quick over to another interesting thing. Oh, that's over here. Israel's considering closing the Straits of Hormuz. Now, I'm going to pull up a map and show you, but why this is so important. Okay, one of the things that I harp a lot about is the economy is kind of in a tough spot. Um, no one is buying the long bond. The long bond's blowing out the top. I mean, the 30 years going just nuts. Trump is begging, Powell to lower rates. Um, there's a lot of reasons for this. Housing market's starting to roll over. Housing prices in a lot of places are starting to plummet because there's nobody could afford a house. Even if you knocked off $100,000 on some of these houses, nobody can still afford it because the lending rate is so ridiculously high. So there's a lot of things going on. The market's in a very precarious place. Now, real quick, let me go ahead and pull this up. This is a map of Iran. I know some of you folks just absolutely hate geography. It's a large country. I mean, it's like what, 4 times the size of Iraq? Here's Israel. You notice Israel's not a very big spot. And being able to hit a very condensed small country, which, by the way, Israel's economy is not in good shape either. Not to say that Iran's in great shape, but Iran's been under economic sanctions for Christ most of my life. They've kind of fallen in with the whole BRICS crowd, and I'm sure you're familiar with BRICS. It's the world is kind of dividing into two camps. There's Russia, China, Iran, Brazil, and a lot of other countries in the past that are kind of ditching the US dollar. They're forming their own trade networks, et cetera, et cetera. And I think actually that's probably what a lot of this war is about. Two reasons. One, because Bibi's about to get ousted from office. The economy's not great there. The population in Israel is split roughly 50-50. Half of them think that Benjamin Netanyahu is a genocidal maniac. The other half think that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread and the second coming of Jesus. You know, you can pick whatever side you want to be on, but now the Strait of Hormuz, that's this little space right here. It's about 34 miles across. Okay, international waters goes out what, 22 miles, something like that? Say 20. So there's only a very small area that they could not block off. Bandar Abbas is a huge Iranian port. Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait City, Basra. More than 25% of all the world's oil comes through this 35-mile wide strait. You can imagine how important that is. If Iran, which has a really crappy navy, let's not kid ourselves, let's not, overemphasize anything. It's mostly small patrol boats, things like corvettes, things of this nature. But again, they don't need a big navy. Their waters are just this. Not to mention, if you look at the terrain, there's a lot of rocky shores. It's difficult. There's a lot of places to hide missile systems, and in fact, Israel has been hitting up here Tehran, the capital, but it's also been focusing on, I believe it was the Bushir, Bandar, and Bandar Abbas, trying to hit the oil infrastructure of Iran. If Iran is either able to close or restrict and limit, because again, they don't have to shut it down totally. All they have to do is say, look, we're done playing this game bullshit. If the United States is going to support this and yada, 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 if you're forcing our hand, we're shutting this down. We're going to do the best that we can to have any ships that come up here, which of course is going to be, now keep in mind, in order for Israel to be able to do any strikes here, they either have to overfly Iraq or Saudi Arabia. So far, Saudi Arabia is causing a lot of shit in the Middle East because Pakistan came out today and said, we stand with Iran. Qatar is likely to stand with Iran. Iraq has a large population that stands with Iran. Keep in mind, the United States still got forward operating bases and stuff in Iraq. There's still American soldiers in Iraq. I know you don't hear about it very often, but same thing with Syria and Jordan. Now, Jordan's kind of it's basically a buffer state. It's basically just to keep all the rest of the Muslim world from attacking Israel. So they're just basically Israel's bitch. Um, but Pakistan's hopping on board. Qatar's likely to be on board. I think Oman has even made some comments towards this. I wouldn't be surprised if Erdogan in Turkey comes out there and kind of says, "Well, wait a minute, enough of this Israel just blatantly attacking people against, there's a whole UN emergency meeting and all this crap's going down." Again, all they have to do is just threaten to shut this down. Just a week, 2 weeks. They don't have to close it. They don't have to stop every ship from coming in and out. A lot of shipping companies, all of a sudden, guess what? Their insurance rates go up. They say, well, screw this shit. How else can we move oil around? Okay, well, all of a sudden, orders here in Turkey are going to go through the moon. And Turkey's got some ports, I think Bursa, that's like an oil hub because there's a lot of the fields that come up out here between Baku and I know there's a lot of oil fields here that played pivotal role during World War II. Um, but it's not going to be enough. This is going to send stock markets. I just can't express to you just how dangerous this really is with as precarious as the economy is right now. And again, they don't have to shut this thing wholly down. And they're probably going to end up in basically Israel's going to try to fight to keep it open. Well, the United States is going to fight to keep this open. There's going to be some Arab countries here that aren't going to be happy because that's how they make basically their money is the oil leaving here. That's literally the primary source of income on the global stage. They're not going to be happy about it. But they're also not really going to be overly willing to get into a conflict with Iran in the middle of everything that's going on. You're forcing the Muslim world to basically decide between the Jews in Israel or your brother Muslims, Shiite or Sunni. They're going to put, I suspect, a lot of that Shiite Sunni stuff, they're going to put it to bed, at least for the time being. I don't know. It's a serious thing. And we can already take a look. It's happening. Check this out in a day. Oil right now is 71.53 at close, up 7.34%. This could easily, in just a matter of days, oil could double. We could easily see oil in the $150 a barrel range. You could easily see gas at the pump somewhere about $7-8 a gallon in the United States. And this is within a month. Remember, Biden used up all the strategic reserve. Now we've been refilling it back, but how full is it? I haven't followed up on that one. But again, and here we go. Tehran considering closing the waterway, and it is. It's the world's most important oil checkpoint. And 20%, okay, they're saying 20% flows through. I've heard at some point it's 25 or 25.8. Narrowest point's 33 kilometers or 21 miles. That's it. And again, all Iran would have to do is sink one ship. That's it. Sink an oil tanker in the middle of the Straits of Hormuz. You would watch the stock market just explode. You're going to see a lot of the markets crash. And let me see if I can show this one. Let me. Nope. I will have to. Let's go ahead. Whoops. Try this one. Nope, it's not going to let me do that. My bad. My streaming software does not like Firefox. My bad. Let's see if I can pull this up in Chrome. And let me open up another tab. Paste and go. There we go. And share this tab. Okay, dollar's going up, which is tough. Right now, we need the dollar to fall. The 2 year, the 10 years up. Stock market's falling 1%. That's pretty big. 1.7 on the Dow Jones. VIX was spiking at close. Anything above 20 is not good. That indicates volatility. When you start seeing volatilities up here in these kinds of level, that's when people are losing their ever loving minds. Gold. Gold's going through the moon. Why? It's a safe asset. Silver had jumped from basically like $32 to 36.29. Silver's on the move. I mean, look at these moves. This is nuts. I wouldn't be surprised come Monday. Silver could probably go as high as 40. It's potential. And soon. It's in a breakout. It's catching up to gold. Gold easily go to 3,500, probably 37 would be my guess. But of course, the big one is oil. There you go. Let's look at this bar. I want you to appreciate that. This is at the end of close. At one point, it spiked up to 77 before it dropped back down at close. If we come and find out that they're going to close the Straits of Hormuz, this shit's going to the moon, pal. This is going off the chart. You're going to see one of the biggest moves ever. I mean, hell, I don't know if you're into the market or not, but I wouldn't dissuade anybody from buying, West Texas Intermediate. Go dump you a couple of bucks in there because it could easily double in price in a matter of days, week or two tops, as long as this kind of stuff just kind of continues going down. And we're in a mess right now. We're in a pickle. The stock markets are not in a good place. We've watched this V-shaped crash. People buy the dip. We've been used to that again. The problem is the 30-year, the 10-year is still up high. And again, the 10-year is really what's dependent on housing mortgage rates. So until this starts coming down a little bit, no one's able to afford it. Right now, I think housing rates in a lot of places are somewhere around 6-7%. It's going to continue to go up. Nobody wants to lend money. There's too much uncertainty out there. You want to watch the VIX. You want to watch the volatility of the market go nuts, because it is. You watch. Next week, volatility is going to be up there. If it's not greater than 30, I'll kiss your backside. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. Look, there's a lot going on out there in the world. I mean, we've got protesters in some places. When the sun goes down, a lot of them turn into rioters. You got people just wanting to burn everything down, people who hate your country, people who don't believe in the rule of law. I don't know. They're always the most entitled, selfish people you'd ever want to meet. I don't know if you guys have probably all saw, it's all over the internet. Some black woman trying to get to her job, and some freaking typical boneheaded liberal bunhead wearing nonsense, rolling his eyes, going, "Oh, a job." Makes you want to vomit. For Christ's sake, she's trying to feed her family, for God's sake. So, hold on a minute. Let me get that transition over there. That's just a damn shame. It's disgusting. Then, in the meanwhile, we got the parade in Washington while we're trying to celebrate a little bit of our military and patriotism. I'm not a big flag waver for that kind of stuff. Um, I'm a little bit more muted and subtle, that Teddy Roosevelt, you know, walk softly, carry a big stick kind of thing. But I'm not opposed to it either. If nothing else, I see that there's a lot of people out here that literally hate the country that they live in, as though everywhere else in the world is just so much better. Go to Venezuela, my friend. Go to Colombia. Go to most of sub-Saharan Africa. Um, there are reasons why millions of foreign people want to come and be citizens of this country, and it's not because we suck. Um, we certainly got our problems and stuff, but for Pete's sakes, we got a good thing going here as long as we can kind of fight to keep it. So, anyway, I just wanted to keep a kind of heads up of stuff that's going on right now. Pay attention to the markets. Um, I'm not a prepper type of person, beyond the fact that I live extremely rural. So, a lot of times I go grocery shopping like once every 3 weeks to a month, which means I typically prep for things. You fill the freezer up, you fill the canned goods up, kind of a thing. Cut down on the expense of having to drive an hour just to get to town. Um, Probably wouldn't hurt to do a few things. I know weird things are happening, like the price of Asian rice is just going bonkers. There's all kind of fuel cost. There's a very good chance it's going to the moon. If oil does hit somewhere in the 120 to 150 range, that will absolutely break this economy. The American working class cannot handle that. If you go to the gas pump and it's $6, $7, $8 a gallon, we're done. We're done. We're already teetering on an edge. And that will absolutely ruin us. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. My God, I wish diplomacy would work again. I really do. I would love to see smart, intelligent people work together, but it's like everybody's ideological and like this nut job killing people. Uh, why? Because he doesn't believe the way he does, or they disagree. And again, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. The right wing's got their own lunatics over there. Um, Beware of people who are ideologically captured. It's one thing to kind of believe in something general, but if you can't find one thing that Trump has done good, then you're probably a left wing nut job. If you can't find one thing that Biden didn't do decent or Obama, you're probably a right wing nut job. You blind yourself just because you chose a team and a party, and God, I don't want no part of that. For God's sakes, people, go out, think for yourselves, man. It's not that hard. Choose positions. Make choices based on things that you honestly, sincerely believe on and hold them true. Try to use reason. I get it that people don't want to get political, it gets emotional. I totally understand that. But it doesn't have to. There are people out there who can actually chat reasonable and stuff. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like that Dave Smith guy. I certainly don't agree with him all the time, but he generally tries to actually go out there and argue stuff, even to prove himself wrong. I respect people who kind of do that sort of thing. Constantine Kiston, the guys over trigonometry, they're pretty decent about that. Um, Nobody's perfect. Judge the world from chaos up, not perfection down, man. But anyway, there's a lot going on in the world. Stay safe, people. Enjoy your weekend. Again, avoid the ideologically captured people that are out there. Hop on the Twitters. Write your congressman. I do it frequently, believe it or not. I absolutely email, and I don't care if they just delete it. I take the time to write it, and I'll go and send it out to my Congress critters. Um, I used to get contacted all the time. Actually, Bart Gordon, when he was my congressman, he even called me on the phone twice at the house. That's the most amazing thing ever. My own Congress critter called me at the house, and Preston there. Let's have a chat. Why are you upset about XYZ thing? And he goes, oh, I appreciate you saw there was some good thing in the waterworks stuff that we did. So I'm like, yeah, well, you do some good stuff, but I just got concerns. The man called me at my house. Some people do listen. Take a chance. You know, hear out your fellow Americans. And if you want to go out there and protest today, Godspeed. Go protest. That's the American way, man. Go have your voice heard, whatever flips your switch. You throw a Molotov cocktail, I'm sorry, and I hope the cops come over there and crack you in the skull. We ain't got no room for this bullshit in this country. If you want to go to the parade, get all North Korean or whatever. God bless you. Knock your socks off. But let's take a deep breath, everybody. And anyway, you folks have a great day. Thanks for stopping by Roots and Reason. It went longer than I hoped. But anyway, peace, love, chicken grease, and I will catch you on the flip side.